Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. The Open Door, Route 9, New Jersey, autumn 1956. It looks like a simple traffic accident, the kind printed once in the local paper and forgotten by the weekend. Clara Miller's sedan rests awkwardly against the concrete barrier. The driver's door still open, as if she stepped out to explain herself. Clara was 34, unmarried, living with her sister Ruth. Careful in the way people become when they expect a quiet future. She had been driving home from the A&P with a vanilla cake balanced on the back seat, thinking about the radio program she would miss. The police said she died instantly, which Ruth repeated for years because it sounded merciful. But the photograph shows something Ruth never noticed at first. A faint figure seated inside, hands folded, posture patient. Clara had always hated being late. Long after the road was widened and the wall repaired, drivers still slow there, sensing someone waiting to finish a trip that never quite ended. The Fourth Smoke, Riverside Park, New York City, winter, 1947. The photograph shows three young women huddled against the cold, sharing cigarettes and laughter as if rationing joy itself. Helen Ward stands on the left in a fur-collared coat, her sleeve lifted slightly as she shields the flame. Margaret and Lillian lean in close, hair pinned carefully, faces relaxed in the way people allow only among friends. They work together at a textile factory nearby, taking this break every afternoon since the war ended. Helen had been quieter since her younger brother never came back from Europe, though she never spoke of it. When the photo was developed, Margaret noticed something wrong along Helen's sleeve. A blurred face pressed into the fur, sharp-eyed, half animal, half human, as if looking outward. Helen quit the factory weeks later and disappeared. Old workers say on cold evenings, the air there smells of smoke. And sometimes a fourth breath joins the others, low and watchful, waiting to be seen. The Boy in the Burlap Hood. Arden Woods, Pennsylvania, October 1918. At first glance, the photograph appears to show a child dressed for a harvest game, wrapped in burlap and holding his father's old rifle for the camera. The woods behind him are calm, the leaves already thinning, the fence line neat and familiar. His name was Thomas Keene, age 9, photographed by his mother the week the influenza reached their town. Thomas had been told not to go outside, but he loved the woods and said the hood made him feel brave. He died 3 days later, before the leaves finished falling. When the picture was developed, Mrs. Keene noticed his face was wrong. Too pale, eyes unfocused, as if pressed forward from somewhere behind the cloth. Neighbors said it was the sickness caught on film. But hunters still claim that in autumn, when the woods go quiet, a small figure stands watching, holding something he was never meant to carry, waiting for permission to come home. The seat. She didn't leave. Dumfries, Scotland. Summer 1929. The photograph was meant to show a modern comfort. Edith Penman reclining in the back of her husband's motor car, legs neatly crossed, expression calm enough to reassure the neighbors. Edith was 28, recently married, proud of how quickly she learned to enjoy speed. An hour after this picture was taken, the car skidded on a loose curve outside town. The papers said she was thrown clear, which sounded better than the truth. Her husband never corrected them. When the image was later enlarged, a blur appeared near the rear wheel, a faint human outline folded low, as if pressed beneath the rim itself. Edith had been terrified of accidents, always asking him to slow down. Locals say the road there feels uneven, even after repairs. Tires wear faster, brakes complain. Some swear that if you stop long enough, you can feel someone still beneath the wheel, holding on, unwilling to be left behind again. The Second Embrace. Lake Annecy, France, July 1931. The photograph was meant to capture a quiet courtship. Madeleine Fournier rowing while Paul Deschamps leaned in close, his mouth near her ear, sharing something private and small. It was a warm afternoon, the lake unusually still, and Madeleine's expression is careful, almost formal, as if she were aware of being watched. Paul had been her fiancé, lost the previous winter when his skates broke through the ice near the far bank. The family said he drowned quickly, which Madeleine accepted because there was nothing else to accept. When the film was developed, a second outline appeared where his head should have been, softer, slightly misaligned, as if another presence were leaning in at the same moment. Madeleine never married. She avoided boats, avoided mirrors, avoided the lake entirely. Fishermen later claimed that sometimes a lone woman rows there at dusk, steady hands on the oars, while someone unseen bends close, still whispering, unwilling to let the moment end. The road that didn't take them. Yorkshire Dales, England. Spring 1924. The photograph shows two young women posed proudly on a motorbike. Coats buttoned tight, smiles practiced but genuine. Edith Walker grips the handlebars, careful and steady, while Rose Ellington sits behind her, hands folded as if this were no more dangerous than a Sunday stroll. They worked at the same mill and saved for months for this machine, promising themselves small freedoms the war had delayed. Edith was known for her caution, Rose for trusting her. What the picture does not show is the bend in the road they took later that afternoon, or how the gravel gave way beneath the tires. Edith survived with a limp and a lifetime of apologies. Rose did not come home at all. Years later, when the photograph was cleaned, a faint third shape appeared behind Rose's shoulder, leaning forward, smiling too closely. Locals say that on quiet mornings, a motorbike is sometimes heard passing, carrying someone who never learned how to let go. The Man Between the Pillars. Silver Spur Saloon, Nevada Territory. 1893. The photograph was taken to show prosperity. The bar stocked, the men relaxed, the long day of mining behind them. Samuel Price stands near the counter with his hat tipped back, proud of the place he helped build. This was the night before the dynamite misfired in the lower shaft, sealing two men underground before anyone could stop it. One of them was Samuel's younger brother, Elias, whose body was never recovered. When the image was developed weeks later, the owner noticed a pale figure between the support pillars, taller than it should be, face stretched thin and unfinished, as if pressed forward from the wall itself. Samuel claimed it was dust and bad light, but he stopped entering the saloon after sunset. Old records say the building was reinforced, the pillars replaced. Still, bartenders insist there is always someone standing where Elias should have been, waiting to be counted when the night closes. The laugh behind them. Dorset Downs, England, August 1936. The photograph was taken during a careless afternoon picnic, when Margaret Hale and her cousin Evelyn sat in the long grass, sharing a bottle they were not meant to finish. Margaret leans back, laughing too loudly, while Evelyn lifts the bottle as if to make a joke of it. The hillside behind them looks empty, sun-bleached and harmless. A year earlier, a local girl named Alice Brewer had gone missing there after walking home alone from the village fair. They found her shoes but nothing else, and eventually people stopped looking. When this photograph was developed, Margaret noticed a pale figure standing far behind them, barely formed, its face blurred as though still learning how to appear. Evelyn said it was light and dust. Margaret was quieter after that summer. Years later, walkers still claim that laughter sometimes echoes across the hill, followed by the sense that someone unseen has just sat down close behind them, listening, waiting to be noticed at last. The Last Reflection. Théâtre Montmartre, Dressing Room, Paris. April 1927. The photograph was taken backstage just before the curtain rose. meant to capture the lively disorder of chorus girls fixing lipstick, pinning sequins, laughing at nothing. Elise Moreau sits nearest the mirror, arm lifted as she fastens her stocking, her face calm in a way that suggested focus rather than joy. Elise had joined the company only weeks earlier, replacing a dancer who collapsed during rehearsal and never returned. When the photograph was developed, the mirror revealed something wrong. Not the room behind them, but a narrower version of it. Darker, crowded, with one extra woman seated between reflections. Her eyes were open too wide, her smile unfinished, as if she had practiced it once and stopped. Elise refused to look at herself after that night. She danced perfectly, but only while watching the others. Stagehands later swore that even when the mirrors were covered, someone inside them was still watching, waiting for her cue. The song that waited. Blue Ridge Mountains, North Carolina. Late summer, 1912. The photograph shows a young couple seated in the grass, instruments held with careful pride, as if the music itself mattered more than being remembered. Caleb Turner rests cross-legged with his banjo, eyes steady, while his wife Anna draws her bow across the violin, her wide hat casting a patient shadow. They were known in the valley for playing at weddings and church picnics, songs learned by ear and never written down. One evening that autumn, Anna did not return from a walk along the ridge. Caleb searched for days, then played alone for years, saying the sound helped her find her way back. When this photograph was later restored, a thin blur appeared between them, shaping itself like a second bow, moving where no hand should be. Old neighbors say that on quiet nights, a fiddle answers the banjo from the trees, always half a measure behind, still trying to finish the song. The Heap That Breathed. Lincolnshire Farmland, England. Autumn 1905. The photograph was taken as a record of hard work. 8 men standing behind a mound of dead rats cleared from the fields after the harvest. Proof that the land had been saved for another year. Thomas Wilkes, the youngest, stands slightly apart, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, refusing to look proud. He was the one who noticed the smell first, not rot, but warmth, like something still alive beneath the pile. When the image was developed, a pale shape appeared rising from the center of the heap, thin and upright, almost human in its posture, as if learning how to stand. The others laughed and said it was steam, decay, imagination. Thomas never worked the fields again. Farmers later claimed that some nights the mound reappears where it was buried, shifting softly, as if all the small lives crushed together had finally decided to move as one, searching for the hands that ended them. The Empty Wagon, Gettysburg Battlefield, Pennsylvania. Late autumn 1916. The photograph shows a supply wagon abandoned on a rutted road, canvas sides sagging, one wheel sunk deeper than the others, as if it had been waiting too long. It belonged to the National Military Park engineers, used to haul tools and markers for the dead, whose names were already fading. On the day this was taken, a laborer named Jacob Haynes failed to report back from the cut bank behind it. The foreman assumed he had wandered off, the way men sometimes did when the work became too quiet. When the image was developed, a figure appeared in the dirt slope beside the wagon, half-formed, watching, its face carrying the tired patience of someone still expecting instructions. Jacob was found weeks later, buried by a small collapse, his tools neatly stacked nearby. Visitors say the wagon never looks quite empty. Even now, something seems to sit inside, listening for a voice that never comes. The Head by the Door, Jeolla Province, Korea. Early autumn 1910. The photograph shows a quiet farmstead, its mud walls cracked from age, the roof weighted down with sticks against the wind. Old Kang Min Soo sits on the stone step, hands folded as if waiting for someone who has not arrived yet. He lived there alone after his son vanished during a border skirmish the year before, leaving no body and no explanation. What unsettled those who later examined the photograph was the shape beside the doorway. A human head, upright at ground level, its expression calm, almost familiar, as though resting there by habit. Kang said he never noticed it while the picture was taken. He told neighbors he sometimes heard breathing at night, close to the door, patient and restrained. After Kang's death, the house collapsed and was cleared away. Travelers still say that spot feels watched, as if someone remains seated just outside, waiting to be invited back inside. Unsure whether it is memory or flesh that has been left behind. The passenger who stayed. Rural Manitoba, Canada. Late autumn, 1938. The photograph shows Eleanor Wright standing proudly in front of her husband's truck, holding a wild goose by the neck, the cold flattening her smile into something practical. She had never liked hunting, but she liked proving she could endure it. The day was clear, the fields empty, the house miles behind them. What no one noticed at first was the reflection in the windshield. A young woman seated calmly inside, hands folded in her lap, watching Eleanor with quiet attention. Eleanor's sister Ruth had died the previous winter after borrowing the truck and failing to return before nightfall. The official story said exposure, a wrong turn, nothing more. Eleanor kept this photograph in a drawer and said it reminded her to be careful. But neighbors later claimed that whenever the truck was started, the cab always felt occupied, as if someone else was already there, patiently waiting for the ride to continue. The man who carried him. Black Hills, Dakota Territory. 1889. The photograph appears to be a miner's portrait, the kind sent home to prove survival. Elijah Moore stands stiffly, shovel in one hand, pick in the other, his vest buttoned too tightly for comfort. He was known as a careful man, slow with his words, steady with his work. The camp records say his younger brother, Samuel, died in a tunnel collapse that spring, crushed before anyone could reach him. Elijah kept working after that, saying the mountain did not mean harm, only weight. When this image was later cleaned, a pale face emerged in the pattern of Elijah's vest, small and unmistakably human, looking outward as if pressed from beneath the cloth. Elijah never married and never left the hills. Old miners claimed he spoke softly to his chest while resting, as though someone there still needed reassurance that the work was not yet finished. The third listener. Appalachian foothills, Tennessee. Circa 1896, the photograph shows a married couple posed with deliberate care, as if stillness itself were part of the promise. Henry Caldwell sits with his fiddle balanced on one knee, bow resting but ready, his eyes fixed forward in practiced seriousness. His wife, Margaret, stands beside him, one gloved hand placed lightly on his shoulder, holding her hat as though she might leave at any moment. They were known locally for playing music at wakes, where songs mattered more than words. What unsettled later viewers was the faint shape behind them, hovering between their shoulders, a pale face, blurred and listening, too intent to be accidental. Henry's younger sister, Eliza, had died of fever the winter before, begging him to play one last tune he never finished. After this photograph, Henry refused to perform at funerals again. Neighbors claimed that sometimes, when the house was quiet, a fiddle could be heard playing softly, as if someone unseen were still waiting for the song to end. The Barber's Extra Client, Manchester, England, winter 1913. The photograph captures a quiet afternoon inside a small barber shop, the kind that smelled of soap and coal dust. Arthur Bell stands behind the chair, sleeves rolled, carefully trimming the hair of his longtime customer, Edwin Clark, who stares ahead with practiced patience. It was taken just weeks after Edwin's brother Thomas died in a factory accident across the river. Crushed between gears no one had bothered to repair. Arthur said Edwin spoke less after that, flinching whenever the mirror caught the light. When the photograph was developed, the glass revealed something neither man had seen. A third reflection standing behind the chair. face pale and unfinished, eyes fixed on Edwin's crown as if waiting its turn. Arthur closed the shop soon after, claiming the mirrors felt crowded. The space was cleared, the glass removed. Still, people say that if you stand there long enough, you feel someone behind you, patient, expecting to be made present again. The chair she never gave back. Pasadena, California. Spring 1974. The photograph looks like an ordinary living room moment, the kind taken after dinner when the lights are low and everyone feels generous. Margaret Ellis sits comfortably in the armchair, cigarette raised mid-sentence, while her sister-in-law June perches sideways on her lap, laughing as if the evening might stretch on forever. The furniture is familiar, the lamp steady, the books neatly stacked as they always were. June had died the previous winter after a quiet illness that Margaret insisted was never serious. Not really. When the film came back, a third presence appeared on the wall beside them. A darker outline shaped like a seated figure, legs crossed, posture exact. Margaret said it was just the light, but she stopped sitting in that chair. Visitors noticed she always chose the sofa, leaving the armchair empty as though someone else was still there, settled in, unwilling to stand. Some say these are only tricks of light, stains of time, or simple coincidence. Others believe these photographs captured something that refused to leave. Look closely one last time. What did you notice that others might miss? Was it just an illusion? Or a presence still lingering inside the frame? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if these images unsettled you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again. Because some stories don't end when the picture fades.